good, guys? Welcome back to the first take. Now, it's been a while since I've done a Comicstorian video. Comicstorian is the channel where they compile comic book stories and origins and just explain it. Well, this guy will break it down in the intro. But the reason I want to do this one is because we've just gotten news this week that Marvel finally has decided to work. They haven't greenlit a movie, but they've decided to work on a script for Black Widow. So maybe Red Sparrow helped to spur that along. Maybe the moderate success of films like Atomic Blonde, Villainess kind of helped to spur that along. Maybe it took a while for them to have faith that a female-led superhero movie can actually do something. Oh, and obviously Wonder Woman, which did gangbusters. So let's see. I figured check out this Comicstorian video where they compile a Black Widow story. So maybe we can get an idea of what this movie could be, the potential. You know, is it going to be an origin? Or would it be just its own isolated adventure? So let's check this out. I think it obviously could, but you know, why not?
Welcome to the Complete Story Series here at Comicstorian. This is the best way to recap on your favorite comic books, allowing you to run out and buy the next issues in the series so that you understand what's going on. Why do we make the best version? Well, first off, I'm a little biased because I helped create this entire system, but secondly, because we add in music, weird voices, and sometimes sound effects. Who else does it like we do it? Anyway, this is going to be Black Widow Volume 1 for the run that did come out and officially came to an end. Now, if you want more Black Widow, I do need to see the likes on this video. This is a hero that we had never covered on the channel in her own separate videos. She's always been a part of other videos. So I don't know how many of you guys actually want to know what happened to Black Widow. This is a run that recently came out and recently wrapped up, so it is a complete story as its entirety, but this is only Volume 1. Across the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier offices, a thud and thump as Natasha Romanoff walks through throwing people. As people start to try and get up and stop her, an announcement goes out through the carrier that as of this moment, Natasha Romanoff, codenamed Black Widow, will be considered an enemy of S.H.I.E.L.D. She fights off the men as they all try to rush at her, but the fighting causes her to be thrown into the wall. When she looks up, she sees that she's in the break room for the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, and she quickly runs through the crowds. But before she can get too far, an agent grabs her, telling her that S.H.I.E.L.D. said she was tough, but he isn't really impressed. Natasha tries to wiggle free and then slams the back of her head into the agent's nose and breaking it. Another agent pulls out a gun and tells her that she's done, but Natasha drops a small bomb and jumps out the window. Hill calls over the intercoms and they need to go get her. Do they have any idea what she stole from them? Several agents jump out after her, and after taking care of two of them, a third asks, "What's your plan now?" Natasha looks around and then grabs onto the man and straps herself onto his jet. She turns back to give him a kiss and then pulls his parachute line, pulling him out of his jetpack. As Natasha makes her way towards the ground, the agent from before pulls out a hovercraft and fires a shot into the jetpack, causing it to explode. Natasha tumbles down, kicking a man off of his motorcycle, and she begins to ride off. The agent chases after her, telling her Hill said to catch her at any cost. This is her last chance. But Natasha continues to ride, so the agent opens fire, and through the bullets, Natasha throws back another bomb. Being so close to the explosion, it throws her off of her own bike, and as she gets up, she hears the cocking of a gun. She just sighs, turns back, grabs the gun, and as she does, the agent punches her down. The two struggle back and forth until the agent is knocked back down. He gets up, pulling out a knife, telling her that whatever she took, he hopes it was worth it. The agent charges forward, and Natasha grabs a rock, bashing it across his head. He gets back up, and Natasha hits him one more time, telling him she really hopes so too. So, a few days before the breakout, Commander Hill and Agent Elder attend a funeral for one of the victims caught in the crossfire for an operation that Natasha was a part of. But off in the distance, Natasha watches, with a rifle aimed straight at Agent Elder. She turns the scope and sees soldiers making their way through the graveyard and decides to put the gun down. While Hill and Elder continue to talk, Natasha makes her way around the graveyard, silently taking each of the soldiers out. She pulls the radio out of one of them, and then makes her way taking out the rest of the men, keeping them out of Hill's sight. As she watches, she overhears on the radio that the soldiers haven't made the shot yet. They have another shot to take out Hill. A man slowly begins to walk up behind Hill and Elder and pulls out a knife. As he gets close, Natasha jumps down, grabbing him, pushing the knife into his own chest. Before Hill and Elder even have a chance to look back, Natasha walks the man back into the bushes and throws him. She then points at the last living soldier and tells him that he's the last one, so he needs to start talking. She holds him to the ground and asks how do they know about this place. He says that there are no secrets from Patch Lave. No way to hide once the weeping lion locks onto his prey, and he never fails. Natasha tells him that he has not, and she's taking out his entire crew. She then hears over the radio that their last chance is the agent posing as the priest. Natasha stops and asks, why would they hesitate now? Hill is left unguarded. More soldiers begin to step out, and over the radio, a voice tells her that Hill was never the target. She was. As Natasha turns back, a man walks up, wrapping her head in a black bag. After being transported, one of the soldiers pulls off her mask and says that it looks like she's awake. Welcome to the lion's den. He tells her that they examined her thoroughly to make sure that she had no tracking devices, so there won't be any rescue coming. And how foolish does she feel walking into a trap? She doesn't answer the man, and he yells at her to answer, so she stands up, headbutting him. As the other soldiers get ready to grab her, Natasha breaks free from the handcuffs and begins to take out the men. After grabbing one of the men's guns, she opens fire, shooting at the others. One of the men grabs her, and they grab her wrist, so she shocks him to break free. She then jumps up, swinging around the man, kicking him in the back. And as the last of the men fall, Natasha begins to hear the sounds of footsteps coming, and a man saying so much for his men. As he walks past, Natasha tells him that he surrounded her with amateurs. And he says, well, some people need to eat, even captive ones. So he tosses a piece of meat into the lion's cage, and Natasha tells him that he should lie to himself. She knows that he's Patlev, or Weeping Lion, and she is not a captive. Platch says that if she knows of him, then she already knows that she can't escape. He then lays out several folders telling her to go ahead and have a look. She opens them, asking him how. How could he have gotten this? Platch walks off, telling her that she's asking the wrong question. The question should be, how best to keep him from sharing that information. He has a job, something that he wishes for her to obtain from S.H.I.E.L.D. And if she even thinks about double-crossing him, that information goes public. He looks back, waiting for a response, and she tells him, fine, he has a deal. Back at the current time, Natasha makes her way down the streets of New York. As she passes the crowds, people begin to tell her that they have a message. She is to fly to Russia. Make for the catacombs in the Red Room. Retrieve a certain file. Don't screw up. Meanwhile, in the street, Elder gives the signal that he's spotted Romanov, and he's going to make contact. As he gets out of his car, Natasha pulls a string from her boot and ties it off. Once Elder gets close, she pulls the string, tripping him, and runs off. After a plane trip over to Russia, Natasha makes her way through the forest of where the Red Room once was. As she walks, she remembers back to when she was younger, and she was being trained to be an assassin. The time that she snuck out and told the headmistress's daughter, Anya, not to follow. She opens the door to the old building, and as she looks in, 2 bullets fly off, hitting the wall. She quickly ducks and begins to overhear 2 men talking about how this is all a waste of time. She holds up a silver plate to see the shooter's reflection and makes a break for it. The 2 men see her and they give chase, but as the first one runs outside, the shooter mistakenly shoots him. Before the second one can react, Natasha jumps from behind, choking him with the wire. As the wire continues to press into his skin, she looks out the window for a moment and sees a little girl. In a moment of hesitation, the man elbows back to break free, but as if it were a ballet, Natasha punches and kills him. She heads down into the basement where the headmistress tended to her wounds once before. She told her that the wound would leave a scar, but do not let it leave the mark of mistake. A lesson on how she was stronger than the one who gave it to her. Back then, though, after having her wounds dressed, she pulled out her knife and stuck it into the bookshelf out of view. The file that she needs is in that same bookshelf, and as she grabs for the knife, it's not there. Before she has a chance to react as to who's behind her, a little girl appears with a knife and stabs her in the stomach. Not long after, Natasha can make out the sky, a man dragging her through a field. She dreams back to that time after she was stabbed. As she went back to the bed, Anya runs up telling her that she's glad that she's back alive. She should have taken her with her. Natasha kept walking, telling her that she would have been dead. She isn't even a trainee and she wouldn't have lasted more than 10 seconds in the Red Room. In the field, she would have only been a distraction, so try not to speak to her. Go back to bed where she's safe as Mama's little recluse. A few days later, Natasha is woken up by the sound of a gunshot. She finds herself sleeping on a couch. She pulls herself off of it and sees a rack of guns and makes her way towards them. But before she can grab one, the door opens and the man from before walks in. Natasha passes back out, but she remembers who that man was. It was someone who helped train her. She wakes back up and asks why is he staring at her when he could be sharing some of that foul-smelling coffee. Iosif tells her good morning to her too. She's been out for 3 days. Dream of anything interesting? She picks herself up, stating that the dreams are for the weak, and about that coffee. He hands her the cup and he gets up. As Natasha calls to him, he tells her not to squander her energy on pleasantries. He won't recognize her. Before she can even respond, he tells her that he taught her all that he could. But what he knows now is that the daughter of the headmistress has created a new version of the Red Room. He has no idea how they're getting their funding, but there is no government oversight whatsoever. Natasha asks of the little girl who gutted her, and Iosif tells her that she should be the first recruit to this dark room, trained to be a new type of widow. Iosif hands her a set of clothes, telling her that he knows that she's on that list that she's after. A list of all known associates of the original Red Room program who could possibly be a complication. But who would put her up to something like this? Natasha says that the man calls himself the Weeping Lion, and he's attempting to blackmail her. So far, she's just been going along to find out what his endgame is. And Iosif leads her down to the next room with some of the older equipment and tells her that they only have the day to train, so they should get on with it. As night falls, Natasha tells Iosif that if she's not back by daybreak, he's on his own, and he tells her good luck. After traveling through the snow, she arrives at the new Red Room site. Once ready, she makes her way down and begins to sneak in, killing any of the guards in her sight. As she sneaks through the vents, she catches a view of the girls being held, and she wants to break them out, but pushes on instead. After getting out and making her way to the next room, the head mistress tells her that if she would have stayed with her, she wouldn't have to sneak in. She then says that she would like her to say hello to her new little spider. Natasha rips her mask off, asking if the new recluse still scuttles in the shadows. And Anya steps out telling her that no one is hiding. In fact, her mother works for her now. And besides that, they're now both physical equals. The head mistress tells her actually not quite. Scans show that Natasha is wounded from their little Phase 1 test subject. So if she really wants to prove that she's better, wait for her to heal. She pulls out the files, and Anya says to go ahead and give her what she wants. They have no need for them anyway. Natasha stares, and the head mistress says not to worry. She will return them one day. And Anya smiles, saying that she's counting on it. Afterwards, Natasha heads back to the city to complete her drop-off. But as she does, she sees Agent Elder making his way towards her. As Natasha sits, one of Platch's men watches through the scope of a rifle, radioing in that he's got eyes on her. A few other people around them then report that they are in position, and Platch tells them to strike on his signal. Natasha gets up and walks over to Elder, telling him that he must be here on behalf of Lion. If so, come with her. As they walk, she tells him that she doesn't feel safe making the drop here. There may be S.H.I.E.L.D. agents around. The two make their way into the parking garage when a gunshot goes off. The shooter in the window says that he hit the gut, but it wasn't fatal. So ground crews are going to have to clean it up. In the garage, Natasha tells him to stay down. She knew that he was S.H.I.E.L.D. from the beginning. He asks why bring him all the way out here then, and she tells him that she wanted to try and keep him out of harm's way. But before they can continue, an explosion goes off, throwing the two of them aside. Natasha says that they need to hurry and leave, and she breaks out the window of a nearby car. Once Elder gets in, she pops her fake car key and takes off. As they leave the garage, Platch's men ride up, opening fire on the getaway car. She tries to drive off, but as she turns, she runs into a dead end. Another car drives straight into them, breaking the barrier wall, pushing the car out. But before the car can fall, Natasha throws a hook out, grabbing Elder, and swings them all to the lower level. As she looks up, Platch's men grab Elder and tell her to hand over the files before he bleeds out. Elder tells her to show that she is still on their side, but the man presses the gun to Elder's head, telling him to be quiet. Natasha reaches for the files and hands them over. But as the man snatches the folder, Elder tells them that if they can't have them, no one can, and he pulls a pin. A grenade goes off, covering Elder and the two thugs and throwing Natasha into a nearby car. Meanwhile, back at Platch's hideout, everyone watches as Natasha gets up from the wreckage, and he tells everyone that now she burns. Since she couldn't complete their mission, they will now release her biggest and darkest secret. There will be many people devastated, specifically Tony Stark. Not long afterwards, Natasha heads over to a payphone to make a call to someone. As she sits in the phone booth, she tells the person what happened with her being blackmailed into keeping the Yinsen operation a secret. So right now, she lost the files, Elder is dead, and she's out of options. But as she sits there, she sees Tony fly up, and she says that she'll have to call this person back. Tony tells her that she's losing her touch using a payphone. But please, tell them this whole Yinsen story is not true, because if it is, Natasha turns her head, showing the bruise from before, telling him it's been one of those kind of days. Tony says that whatever he was planning on doing would just seem redundant at this point. But how about they head over to the Stark office buildings? That way she can try to convince him that she isn't responsible for the death of a man that he owes everything to. The two walk into Tony's office building, and he tells her that he remembers when she had sent the Crimson Dynamo after him, and when she dropped a building on top of him, and even the path that she sent Hawkeye down before he was good. All of that he's forgiven, but this is a whole different matter. Natasha says that she realizes that, which is why she never told him. Yinsen meant a lot to him. Tony tells her that he may have only known him for a few weeks while they were being held by Wong Chu, but the man was a genius. They would have changed mankind for better in ways that Reed Banner and even he could not have done. He helped build the first Iron Man suit so that he could live, and now he hears that she delivered him to the terrorists? Natasha said that she regrets it, but Tony grabs her by the arm, stating, "So it is true!" After letting go, he apologizes to her, and Natasha says that it's fine, she just needs a place to sit down. Tony leads her over to one of the rooms and says that they do have a full-body scan to go through, to make sure that she's not hiding any weapons real quick. And as the scan completes, he says that's funny. It shows that she doesn't have any wounds. Suddenly, Tony feels a shock, and Natasha tells him that it's all makeup and acting. Thanks for letting her in. Later that night, she rings the doorbell to Platch's hideout, telling him that he's gotten careless with his address. When she was captive, she noticed some Stark shipping crates, so after matching the serial number off of one of them and checking Tony's computer, it led her right here. Platch grabs and throws Natasha against a wall, and as she falls back, she wraps a wire around his neck and pulls. After subduing him, she raises her knife, and then a voice calls out to her, telling her not to hurt his brother. Natasha looks up to see a small boy, and she asks who he is, and he tells her that he's the brains behind the muscle, the mastermind behind the decoy front. He is the true Weeping Lion. He says that he knows what she's thinking, literally because he's a telepath.
The kid.
And he tells her that he did all of this because he wanted power. He collects secrets and he weaponizes them, and being a telepath can help manipulate his goals. As he walks down the stairs, he tells her what other dark things can they find in her head. And she tells him that's enough. There were a few things that she stole from Iron Man. First is an earpiece designed to prevent intrusions of the mind, and second is this. She holds out her hand and charges a blast, shooting him out of the house. She then steps out, telling him that no one plays her. No one gets into her head without her letting them. And just so they understand each other, she's gonna make a deal with him. He works for her now. And that's the conclusion of Black Widow Volume 1. Now, it's a fun spy story, which is why I did enjoy it. It doesn't really take place in the current timeline. I mean, it does, but it's nowhere near Civil War and all those other storylines. This is way before all of that stuff. But since Black Widow's a hero that we've never...
Even though it isn't a full, complete story or doesn't have a full, complete end, big up Comicstorian. You want to check out that full video, check out the link below. He's got tons of these on all of the comic book characters you could ever want to know. But yeah, as far as the possibility of what we could see in a movie, you know, this would make a good base foundation for something they could build on. Because, you know, Marvel do a good job of taking little seeds from pre-existing stories and then adapting them and building them up to be their own thing in the movies. This would be a good start for a Black Widow movie. You know, they'd have to change what the secret is. I don't think they really needed the whole Tony Stark thing, maybe a little bit of it, but for her to be on the outs. But S.H.I.E.L.D. ain't really a thing that much anymore in the movies, even though it is on a TV show, but you know, those two don't really, you know, kind of anymore. But as far as a base for a storyline, this would be very good. Like, it is exciting. I don't know how you guys interpret this, but in my head I see it playing like a movie. Born Identity vibe. They say actually Black Widow, not Black Widow, they say Black Panther actually has a lot of inspiration from Bond. I'm actually really curious to see how they've done that. That comes out in a couple of weeks, so really looking forward to that. But yo, Black Widow could be nice, especially if they use this as a foundation, because yeah, this was exciting, especially showing it. They did a good thing in showing her story as it is now in the current MCU. I'm talking like from the movie perspective, they did this, but still has seeds or strings back to her origin, so we don't have to go back and tell the whole thing from the beginning up to when, you know, she joined S.H.I.E.L.D. That we don't really need to see, but it would be good to see some of that Red Room stuff. So to show that there's like a certain character or someone she had a relationship with back then, and to show that either the Red Room hasn't completely gone away or a new thing has taken its place, like with this, the Black Room, that would be cool. Because I want to see more of those assassins, especially you get to see some of those kid assassins as well. That'd be sick. Yeah. I'm excited, man. I don't know whether this script development that they said that they're going to do is going to actually lead to a movie. Hopefully it will. Usually when, you know, you hear that they're working on the script for something, then usually it does actually, you know, lead to a full-fledged movie eventually. It's going to be a hell of a long time before we see anything, though, if this is happening. This could be like 3 years away, or I don't even know whether they've got any gaps in their schedule. I guess with the with the Disney deal of buying Fox, it could shift some of the release dates slightly for some of the movies because of all of the X-Men stuff that they have to make room for, so that, you know, they're not cannibalizing their own product as they release movies. So it could leave a little window for Black Widow. You think this is a good basis for a story, or do you think there are better Black Widow stories out there that were told that could make for a better live action telling of the Scarlett Johansson led Black Widow movie? Let me know, guys. Write comments down below. If you like the video, please subscribe. Like I said, check out Comicstorian's video down below. Link, I'll put it down below. And I'm Eddie Reese. This has been my first take to Comicstorian's Black Widow, S.H.I.E.L.D's Most Wanted complete story. Yeah, looking forward to volume 2 of that. Hey guys.